One day I'm gonna be everything I wanna be. I don't let it get the most of me. One day I'm gonna be free. I wanna be everything I'm gonna be. My future right in front of me. One day I'm gonna be free. I wanna be free. Then let me be free. One day I'm gonna be free. Mentally and physically, emotionally and spiritually. One day I'm gonna be free. I'm standing at the crossroads. I'm feeling like a lost soul. Don't know where I wanna go, but all I know is I wanna be free. They're telling me to let it be, but that just ain't in me, no. Jealousy and envy, but all I see is I wanna be free. See everything I wanna be, exactly what I'm gonna be. Don't let it get the most of me. Eventually, I'm gonna be free. See everything I wanna be, exactly what I'm gonna be. Yeah. One day I'm gonna be free. I'm gonna be free. Let me be free. One day I'm gonna be free. Mentally and physically, emotionally and spiritually. Yeah. One day I'm gonna be free. I told them take their aim off me. Stop trying to get a name off me. If they would just let me be, I'm gonna be free. I told them take them chains off me and throw away the locks and keys. If they would just let me be, eventually I'm gonna be free.
They're back.
What up, dog? What up, dog? What up, dog? 7 days, and we're back again for another episode of The Dominant Effect. I'm Marsh Bishop. We got Aaron Olinger and our other co-host, Mike Ball. He ain't with us this week. He's in California with his babies, but I'm pretty sure he'll probably jump on the comment chat. So hope you're having a good time over there in sunny California. You know what I mean? I'm pretty sure he got a lot more heat over there than he do in Alabama, but it's over there seeing his babies. So pretty sure you're having a good time doing that. But what's up, Aaron? How was your week, brother?
Oh, it was wonderful, man. Had time to rest and recover at home and planting my garden right now, picking up plants here and there. Beginning next week, I'll start doing my planting. I even went out and picked up some blueberry and raspberry plants today so I can have strawberries, raspberries, and blueberries in my backyard. I mean, uncertain times we're living in calls for uncertain measures right now. So I'm gonna make sure I've got fruit as well as vegetables that I can grow. And I'm still debating on whether I'm going to have little chickens or not for eggs. But right now, I'm getting the plants together.
Okay. Yeah, I got a speaking of gardening, I got a few that I picked up the other day, and I'm going to, I told you how I had that little garden back here where I've been experimenting with those totes and stuff just to see
Right.
if I could keep them growing. And like I said, the ones that I planted last year still going, still producing.
Great.
So I got some more. I'm gonna do probably about another three totes,
Okay.
and I'm gonna try to do like some. I'm gonna do green beans in one. Um, I got one. I'm gonna do potatoes, and the other one I ain't quite figured out what I'm gonna do with the other ones yet. I don't know whether I'm gonna go with peppers again on another one, or am I gonna try to do like some kind of herb or something like that. I don't know yet, but I'm gonna mess around with it and see what it is I come up with. But like I said, we've been talking about this stuff for the longest, So, but we've been. I know I've been real proactive about doing it because I wanted to see here in Florida, was I able to do that? Because here it's sand. You know what I mean? So um, I didn't want to go through the whole thing having to till up everything and all that. So I'm like, okay, let me try this and see how it works. And it actually worked out fairly well. Actually, I was actually surprised about how good it did work. I had tried it once or twice when I was in Ohio, and it did pretty good then. But in Ohio, you got a different climate, so they only last for so long, and then they died out. But here, I was able to keep them year round. And, matter of fact, I just took let me see, from them peppers that I had, I think I took like 10, 12 I picked off the other day. Yeah, they were nice size. Them, I had some jalapenos on there. Them suckers was about this long. They was they were nice. But it's been but they've been going pretty good though.
Good.
There's some other little things I've been wanting to try too. So kind of gives me a chance on the weekends when I'm not doing anything to kind of mess with it a little bit and see what all I come up with. But so this week we're going to talk about was a couple different things we're going to talk about, but this first thing we're going to talk about is the blackout that happened in Europe. And the crazy part about this is because it happened, and all the way till today, they still don't know what happened. They don't know how it happened, but it was a full scale power outage that extended through Spain, Portugal, some of France, and I heard that even a little piece of Belgium got a little bit of it too. And you got all these experts kind of basically scrambling for answers, trying to figure out what happened. So you had well over 60 million people that within 5 seconds was in the dark. You had the passenger trains that stopped, no lights, internet's down. You have
Water,
water
pressure. Yeah.
right. The water pumping stations had stopped, which is crazy because you would think that they would have some kind of backup for that would keep them going, but it didn't. But as we start talking in here, it's a bunch more other stuff in here. But I was sitting back thinking about that and was like, can you imagine? Now, this is something that we've talked about before on numerous occasions about the power grid going down and whatnot, and what could happen. And I think a lot of times the stuff that we talk about stuff like this, a lot of people think it's just a conspiracy theory. That's not going to happen. And then you see something like this happen that basically put 3 countries in the dark. It can easily happen. It can very well happen. One of my things was, okay, did people actually how many people was actually prepared for this to go on? But it was kind of like a wake-up call to not only for them, but to many countries, just to show them like how quick this could happen and how everything that was, that's so, how can you put it? That's so encapsulated under everything running on power. And when it shuts off, you basically back in the Stone Age until they get this power back on.
Mm-hmm.
So, but what did you come up with that?
Well, I'm with you. I'm going to go with 3.5 countries because you had Spain, Portugal, France, and Belgium. So that's about 3.5. They all have to be sharing power lines with each other. That was the thing that amazed me, that whatever was set apart, and they said it was a rare phenomena, climate phenomena, something to do with outside temperature and then the pressure. And they used a lot of technical terms that I couldn't even pronounce half of 4 or 5 of the words that they used. And I'm like, this has got to be a cover story here, because why would the other countries go down if this wasn't a cyber attack? And then the president of Spain told his people that they weren't allowed to call it a cyber attack because they would be causing a panic. They'd get in trouble for saying that it's just rare phenomena. So I looked up the phenomena to see how often has it happened in history, and there's not one single recorded case of it happening. So that I'm like, well, they must be making up terms here to say some nonsense like this. But it really tripped me out. And call me a conspiracy theorist, but as far as I'm concerned, it was a cyber attack. And because the other countries were on the same grid, on the same lines, they got hit as well. And that just revealed to whatever group that did it, and they were pointing the finger at first at Russia, but whatever group did it now knows now they can bring down almost half the European Union by just hitting certain key countries and letting that cyber thing travel through the lines to the next country because there's no defense for it.
Right. Now, they said that it wasn't a cyber attack, right?
Right.
Now, but then they said a little bit ago that they had no idea what it was.
Right.
So how can you actually rule that out? Being the fact that you don't know what happened.
Mm-hmm.
Now they did have to go back and reboot everything, which is called a black start, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Where they gradually went through one power plant at a time and like rebooted it until they were able to get everything back on. Okay, so if all those power plants shut down and you had to go back and reboot one at a time to get them back on, so that meant something had to happen to shut them all down at the same time. Now,
Right.
of course, I heard the thing about the atmospheric pressure and ions. Now, I don't believe that shit. They don't believe that shit when they said it. But what else could happen? Like if it's not cyber, how else was it that you were able to knock out all those power stations at the same time?
Right.
There's no other explanation for it. It doesn't make sense. So when you're dealing with power outages, it can happen when there are a couple different faults, for instance. So you got the power station went down, or the power distribution lines, or the substations, or other parts of the system like transformers, regulators, lightning arresters, stuff like that as it goes down. Now, the electricity between those systems, though, they maintain right around a 50 hertz to ensure stability all the way across.
Mm-hmm.
And then that level varies because of the backup systems that they have that kind of disconnects power stations and stuff like that if it goes above that to keep it from from damaging. So now Spain is one of Europe's biggest producers of renewable energy because they rely on wind, solar. I think solar is like 43% of their total global average. So they're actually above everybody else when it comes to renewable energy. But they also use something called a what is it? A solar what is it? I forget the other one. It's called a PV, but it's that's Provoltic. Solar Provoltic. I had to think about that for a minute. I'd seen it the other day. But basically what it is it's a technology system that converts sunlight into direct energy. And it uses like semiconducting materials like silicone, for instance, to generate electric current whenever it's exposed to light. So that uses I think Spain uses up to 59% of that for their energy. Now with the blackout, it went from at 59% to 8%. So something was even interfering with the solar. Now they will also use wind turbines, which that's like 12%. Your nuclear was 11%, and then you have your combined cycle gas turbines, which is about 5%. But all of that dropped, all of it. So whoever it was that was behind that, because if you sit here and tell me that wasn't cyber, I'm gonna tell you that you're full of shit. Because there's no way if Spain uses 59%, almost 60% of renewable energy, how were they able to be completely blacked out? It has to be more to it than what they're saying. But there's a little quick video that I got right here that they're gonna be kind of giving a little bit of info based on what they know, which they don't know. They don't know. They just trying to figure it out. But we're gonna hit it right quick. Matter of fact, I got two. So I'm gonna play one and then I'm gonna jump into the other one and then we'll jump back into this.
A major power outage has hit parts of Spain and Portugal, with reports that parts of France were also affected. It hit transport, including trains, mobile phone networks, and the Madrid Open. Our correspondent John Ray is here. At early stages, what more can you tell us right now?
Well, as you say, Nina, the full extent of this really is still becoming clear. Obviously, communications are more difficult, but large swathes of Spain, of Portugal, and for a while at least, France seem to have been entirely cut off. So potentially we're talking tens of millions of people. From Madrid, we have these images from social media, which seem to show the underground system plunged entirely into darkness. The network was being evacuated of its passengers. Similar scenes really on the overland railways. Passengers told there were no services running. You see the concourse there of people hanging around. The notice board is entirely blank. Basically, people just trying to find out what on earth is happening. On the roads, people have been told, please just don't take your car. We have pictures again from Madrid. We show where the traffic is running. The traffic lights are out, and in the centre of the city, traffic is ground pretty much to a standstill. Also in Madrid, of course, the Open Tennis Championship, that was halted. Now, Spain's power generator to Red Electric said they suffered an outage at 12:30. They were investigating the cause. They're working hard to get it back on. And we've been speaking, Nina, just a short while ago to a colleague, a former colleague, by old-fashioned telephone. She's in Alicante in the southeast of Spain. She says her internet is down, the traffic lights are out, the trams have stopped running. It's apocalyptic, she says. If you think of the problems caused at Heathrow by the outage from one substation just a few weeks ago, multiply that to national, maybe multinational level, you'll get a sense of the chaos that is ensuing now on flights. We have no definitive word of what disruption there is. We know emergency generators at some Spanish airports at least have kicked in, but the advice this lunchtime, if you are flying to Spain or to Portugal, is to check with your operator.
Imagine millions left in the dark, literally, in just 5 seconds. One moment, life is normal. Lights on, screens glowing, cities buzzing. The next, everything stops. No warning, no time to prepare, just a sudden, sweeping darkness that engulfs entire countries. Let's break down Europe's historic blackout, a crisis that stunned the continent and left experts scrambling for answers. On April 29, 2025, at about 3:15 p.m., most of Spain and Portugal lost power in an instant. 60 million people gone dark, airports, trains, metros paralyzed. The hum of daily life was replaced by confusion and silence. Passengers stranded in Madrid, Barcelona, and Lisbon. Even southern France felt it. Travelers were left with no information, staring at blank screens and waiting in uncertainty. Hospitals rushed to emergency generators. In critical moments, backup power became the only lifeline for patients and staff. Doctors and nurses kept patients safe, sometimes using only flashlights and battery-powered gear. Intensive care units, operating rooms, and emergency wards all had to adapt instantly. Non-urgent procedures got cancelled. Emergency staff worked around the clock. Daily life completely flipped. Exhaustion set in, but the commitment to care never wavered. Streets went dark, shops and supermarkets closed, and people relied on cash as electronic payments failed. ATMs were down, and many found themselves unable to buy essentials. Police directed traffic by hand, and Madrid firefighters rescued over 170 people stuck in elevators. Emergency services were stretched thin, responding to hundreds of calls for help. Even water and mobile networks got spotted. Many households lost access to running water, and communication with loved ones became nearly impossible. The cause? Still under investigation, but early reports point to 2 sudden failures at large solar plants in southwest Spain. These plants, usually a symbol of progress, became the epicenter of the crisis. The grid couldn't handle the shock. 15 gigawatts disappeared in 5 seconds. That's enough to power millions of homes, gone in a blink, leaving the system unstable and vulnerable. It's not confirmed as a cyber attack, but officials aren't ruling anything out yet. Investigators are combing through data, searching for clues. Was it a technical glitch, human error, or something more sinister? Governments in Spain and Portugal declared emergencies. Leaders addressed the public, promising swift action and support for those affected. Crews worked non-stop, restarting power plants, boosting imports, and restoring 99% of power by morning. Their tireless efforts brought hope back to millions. Despite the chaos, people pulled together, sharing food, water, and help. Communities became lifelines, with neighbors checking on each other and offering support. Communities and volunteers stepped up, proving solidarity shines brightest in the dark. So what's next? How do we prevent this from happening again? As Europe leans more on renewables, this blackout is a wake-up call. Building a resilient grid is more urgent than ever. Experts are now rethinking how to balance clean energy with reliability and how to protect against future shocks. Stay safe, stay informed, and let's support each other through the unexpected. In times of crisis, it's our unity and resilience that light the way forward.
So what do you think about that?
That's very eye-opening. I mean, we've talked on this show about having a get-home bag with you in the event that something would happen and you'd have to walk home from work. And I'd hate to have been, say, an hour away by train, my knees couldn't take a walk of that distance. And I'd have to have enough food and water on me to try to get me through. I'm sure most of those people didn't have nothing because they'd never see that happen. And I heard a lot of them was using their cell phones as flashlights. But once the power runs out, you can't even communicate with your family to come and pick you up. Yeah, I mean, it don't cost but 7, maybe $10 to have a small 2-inch flashlight in your pocket for an emergency. I mean, that's crazy. And I don't know if people remember this or not. March 2025, because Canada was going to cut off power to 2 states inside the United States, Trump declared a national emergency on electricity, not a local emergency, not a regional emergency. He declared a national emergency. What does he know? Is it that our electric system was so antiquated that you could get a cascading effect by taking a certain amount of it down and it overwhelming the rest of the units, which would cause a cascade? But I mean, he declared a national emergency. And people need to listen when they hear these little nuggets of information. It ain't somebody talking crazy. The powers that be will always give you a small window of opportunity to prepare. They will signal that something is coming. If you can read the signs, if you listen to the nuggets of information and how they word things, then you know what's time. I need to take some action because they're giving clues. So I'm gonna stop there for right now.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Now you see it on their video where it said 15 gigawatts of power gone,
Mm-hmm.
5 seconds. Now, so that meant everything stopped, everything.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I think the one guy on the first thing said it. One of his reporters said it was it seemed apocalyptic because there was nothing moved. You know, you dealing with 2 full countries and a piece of this country and a piece of this country that's in the dark.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you know, a lot of these people were trying to hit the banks and all that stuff to try to get cash because they didn't have cash on hand. They wasn't getting in them banks because, you know, they shutting them bitches down. You ain't getting up in there.
Yep.
Them cards ain't working.
Mm-mm.
You know, so the first thing you doing, you trying to take what you got. You trying to run to the store, grab everything that you need to grab, or grab just enough stuff that you can, you know. But you know, if you thought about going to the store, everybody else going to the store as well.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody trying to get food, everybody trying to get gas, everybody trying to get up all the water and everything else that they can get their hands on, because they don't know at that point in time how long it's going to be before that power comes back on, if it comes back on.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it was talking in there about renewable energy and whatnot, in which, like I said, 59%, almost 60% of what Spain uses on a day-to-day basis is renewable energy, whether it's solar, wind, or gas. Now, but it still happened. Even with you having renewable energy, it still happened. Now, I know here in the U.S., and you know, years ago, I used to work for the power company years ago, and used to climb the transmission towers. I was a lineman. Used to try to run the transmission towers, all that. But the whole U.S. you have thousands of substations, but if you knock out 9 particular ones, you can black out this whole country.
Yep.
Well, you know, Texas has their own grid, which, you know, it goes down a lot, especially in the summertime, because of everybody using AC and all that, and it overloads the grid, and they have to shut it down from time to time, and tell you not to run your AC between this time and this time to be able to conserve on the power, because they are their own grid. But if you think about it, like I said, 9 substations. Now, I'm not the only one that knows that. 9 key substations will black out this whole country. What are you going to do at that point? So you're going to have some that have their stuff prepared. They know what to do. So if it happens, it's like, okay, power's out. This is what we need to do. Boom, 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 boom. Those are the ones that's actually prepared and waiting for something like that to take place, so they know exactly what to do. Then you have the ones who thinks that stuff like this would never take place, and they don't have nothing. So you got a whole different set of people, because now those people are now in survival mode. And they're going to run around and try to get whatever they can get whenever they can get it. And Lord knows if it goes 2, 3, 4 days without power, some people lose their mind. You know what I mean? I know people that lose their mind. They don't got their phone for 2 hours. You know what I mean? Not to mention if you don't have actual power in your home, or you don't have a generator or anything like that you're going to be able to use to kind of facilitate what's going on, for a short period of time.
Mm-hmm.
Panic. And I'm pretty sure probably quite a few of them there probably did the same thing. They probably panicked as well. I think probably one of the things that probably helped a lot of them is that that they've been putting out warnings to people for months now
Mm-hmm.
to stock up on stuff, which kind of leads me to believe that they knew about something like this, because they've already been warning people about getting stuff together, being prepared, having food and water for so many days, having supplies, medical supplies, and all that other stuff already in your home in case something went on. So I really think that this was more cyber than anything. Now, of course, like I said, they don't know. They guessing, just like we guessing. But just based on what they're talking about and how that's happened, I mean, because you haven't heard of anything like this actually going on, since, here within the past, let's say 50, 60 years, you ain't never heard anything like that. Now, there was no, what's another thing that they could use? You remember back years ago when they were talking about the solar flares. The solar flare knocked out the telegram station, that was shocking the operators and stuff like that. Was that the Carrington incident, if I'm not mistaken?
Right.
But look how long ago that's been. Now where they were showing there, they didn't have any warnings like that. The weather was clear. They didn't have high winds or anything like that. There was no storms that went through there. So what else could have caused it? I think that's one of the biggest reasons. This right here just kind of put it more in your face as to the stuff that we've been talking about people being ready, being prepared for stuff like this, because this could easily happen here. Easily happen. Just like I said, 9 substations. As big as this country is, 9 substations will put the whole country in the dark. Just like this.
Mm-hmm.
Thing is, luckily they were able to restart the power stations one at a time and be able to get it back on. But what if a situation happened, this situation here, let's just say that they were not able to start the power stations and those people were still in the dark? Then you would have news reports right now that would show people rioting, breaking in these stores, and doing everything humanly possible to get their hands on anything that they can get their hands on. That would be what we would be seeing.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Luckily, they were able to get them back on. This let me ask you this: what do you think about this whole technology thing? And let me break it. Let me sum it up as to what I'm talking about. Now, you remember back in the day, and I know you remember this. You had how the power came in. You had the old school breaker box. You had the little fuses. You screw them out, screw them in. You had the little box ones you pop in or whatever. Now you have it to where, you know, the power company can be on their computer and cut your lights off. They don't even got to send nobody to your house. They can just cut you off right now. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Technology has grown tremendously throughout the years to where we are completely 100% dependent on technology. Mm-hmm. A lot of people, it's like as technology progressed, the regular things that we would normally do, that especially us older generation would do, you no longer do. Now, you still have some, you know what I mean, that still does it. But the general conception is that a lot of them don't, because we've gotten comfortable to the technology that's being provided, just because every day it's something new that's coming out that's supposed to be making, you know, life easier. Everything's easier, you know. So the actual hard work and putting stuff in, like we was talking about earlier about growing the gardens and stuff like that, people don't do that no more. They'd rather just go to the store and just buy it, you know, which half the stuff that you buy at the stores ain't worth a damn, because they spraying it with so many pesticides and everything else. You don't even want it. You can't even taste it. Half this stuff don't even have a taste to it anymore. You know, so, but if something like this took place long term, to where you would have to, you know, go back to the basics and learn how to do this stuff all over again. Learn how to farm and learn how to grow your own vegetables and go out and hunt and everything else. I mean, the stuff that we used to, you know, like we like to do, you know, people now, when you talk about it, like, oh no, man, ain't nobody trying to do that. I ain't know you did that. No, I ain't doing that. You know, you don't know that. So my question to you is, do you think that technology, even though it's easier, is it better?
Technically, no. In just 2 generations, we've become what in the survival community is called sheeple. That's people that move with the mass, where you move with the herd. Whichever way the herd goes, you go. And you don't have no thoughts. The shepherd guides you where he wants you to go and what he wants you to do. And you follow the shepherd along. They got the guard dogs that helps to move the herd. I mean, people have turned into sheeple. If that power grid went down, according to the government studies, and people can look this up, within 6 months to 18 months, 90% of the U.S. population would be dead. We talked about that on the show, and we covered the death count in the 3 stages that there was. And a lot of people don't realize that a lot of systems today are, like I said, are antiquated. They need work. They need updating. Here in America, 30 years ago, the population would have been a certain number. 30 years later, our population has substantially increased. However, that system that was in place was built to handle a certain amount of people. It's not built to handle the increase. And, you know, when Texas is having their problems running the air conditioner stuff, it's because of the massive population increase that Texas has had. And they end up having something called rolling blackouts. California has rolling blackouts. So that's a clear example that our system needs to be updated to handle the present population base. But we don't do it because we don't really have the money to update everything. and we can't hang new lines. We can't put the new lines in the ground. I mean, even the water pipes that are in the ground were only built to be in the ground for 60 to 70 years. I mean, Flint getting that damn brown water, that clearly shows that those pipes need to be replaced in the ground. But now you got to dig up everybody's yard. You got to dig up the roads. That amount of money would be so substantial that they'd rather just tell you the water's safe to drink. Go ahead and drink that brown water. It's okay. And people buy it. They do it because they're sheeple. They don't question nothing. So
Mhm.
people need to understand everything that they telling you to do ain't for your own good. I mean, they're just trying to keep from spending the money.
One of the let me see who we got here. Jason made a point. He says, just because technology has made many parts of life easier doesn't mean technology isn't actually bad for humanity. True.
Mhm.
Not saying that it's bad for humanity. What I'm saying is been the fact that we've gotten so comfortable in not having to do that if something like this actually took place, you'd be lost. You
Mhm.
know, because we're so used to, you know, going to the store, or we can go online and order it, or that's the easiest way now. I mean, is this stuff now? You don't even got to leave the house. I mean, you can make your food order, you can order dinner, you can order your groceries, you can do everything that you need to do sitting right here in your house. You don't got to do nothing, you know. But what if that stopped? Then what you gonna do?
Mhm.
You know, so you're gonna have, like I said, you're gonna have certain people that's gonna that's not gonna panic when something like that happens. They automatically know what they're gonna do. And then you have the ones that's gonna go nuts. You know what I mean? Because they're gonna be like, "Oh my God, this is going on. What am I gonna do? I'm not ready." But you've had, but just by, like you had said something earlier, that one of the things you said earlier when we first started talking, you was talking about the uh,
The use of tragedies.
yes,
Okay.
yes, that part
Okay.
where you were saying that a lot of things happen, and when they're able to put stuff in place whenever there was a tragedy that went on.
Right. There
Um,
always has to be a tragedy to invoke change. I mean, if they wanted to bring in the CBDCs right now, what three tragedies could they use? Could they use one or could they use three? War would be a way to bring in the CBDCs. A new pandemic, let's say that somebody weaponizes the H5N1 bird flu. That could be the new world pandemic. And then they could cause a financial collapse of the dollar, let people suffer, watch people die from a pandemic, and then they come forward to CBDCs behind the tragedy, and people would accept it. You go back anywhere in history where there was major change, there was always a tragedy that occurred first. And sometimes those tragedies were engineered. They created them themselves, they invoked them onto the population, then they came forward with the solution, and they looked like damn heroes. But they the ones that started the whole thing to begin with. I mean,
mm,
it's amazing if they do the research, they'll see what I saw. But I'll stop there.
yeah, yeah, that's well, when we were talking about that point back a while ago,
Hmm.
and yeah, that's very true. Like I was saying on one of the other shows, it's like if you people are going to say now, if you give them a choice right now, they're going to say no. Absolutely, they're gonna be 100% no all the way across the board. But if you make it to the point that they can't survive without it, you'll beg for them to do it
Hmm.
because it's a way out. You know what I mean? And that that's typically what happens. You know what I mean? Doing something like that.
Well,
Um,
they've got a thing right now to where you can get your hand chipped and you can pay your bills with wiping your hand, which sounds like something out of the book of Revelations. And I've talked to many a person that faith-based told me when they start doing that, I'm just going to opt out of society. I'm not going to accept the mark of the beast or the chips. How long can you go without food and water? How long can you watch your grandchildren or your children suffer before you give in? I mean, it clearly says you won't be able to buy or sell anything unless you take that mark and take that chip. So how long can you go without? How long do you think you're going to stay in your house that they're not going to come and take your property from you, take your vehicle from you, take everything you got? And you're living like an animal in the woods with nothing, nothing. How long will you go like that before you say, fuck it, I give in?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So luckily, hopefully, well, no, I'm gonna take that back. Luckily,
Mhm.
this didn't become as bad as it could have been.
Right.
They were able to restart these stations and be able to get the power back on and, put everything back to normal. I mean, you only had just a little bit of a problem. Wasn't nothing that took several days or weeks to be able to fix. So that's a good thing because, like I said, if something else would have took place, let's say, for instance, that it was actually hacked and they couldn't get these power stations back on, that would be catastrophic there.
Mhm.
In more ways than one. Like I said, you have not only because you couldn't get to the banks and the cars, I mean, trains wouldn't run and stuff like that, but you got hospitals that's running on generators,
Mhm.
not being able to, get fuel there for the generators. They got, the hospital's still going to run. They still going to have surgeries. They still need power. They still have people there that's hooked on ventilators and heart monitors and a lot of stuff that they have. Like they do have some stuff that works on battery, but it's a lot of stuff that don't. So that could be catastrophic if it had prolonged for a period of time. So, and that goes for anywhere. But luckily, like I said, that didn't happen. But I think these countries need to be more proactive about their power grids, especially the U.S. needs to be more proactive about these power grids. And this isn't something that just came up. This has been talked about for years.
Mhm.
That this is what they need to do. And I know for a fact that China has actually hacked into the power grid at least twice. And from other reports that I've heard, they the way they have those systems set up is that they do it every day. Every day they've been trying to get into that system. Every day they've been trying to get into the water supply systems, 911 emergency services, all that stuff. I mean, every single day they've been trying to get into these different systems because if they're able to cut that off, then you can cause chaos. You know what I mean? And being the fact right now, the stuff that we're dealing with China, what do they have to lose? So another thing we're going to talk about is what's going on with India and Pakistan, because they just you didn't hear about this. You know what I mean? Like they've been cool for a while,
Mhm.
and then now you got this whole thing that done popped up with them. So I'm gonna play this little video right quick to kind of get everybody kind of caught up as to what it is, and then when we come in, then I'll let you pick up once this video's over.
Okay.
Two nuclear-armed countries are tonight spiralling towards open conflict, with Pakistan warning it has credible intelligence India will launch military action against it in the next 24 to 36 hours. The already fragile relations between India and Pakistan have disintegrated after the April 2nd terrorist attack, which saw militants open fire on tourists in a part of Indian-controlled Kashmir. 23 people died and a further 17 were injured. That attack was claimed by a previously unknown militant group called the Kashmir Resistance, and Pakistan has denied any connection to it. But India disagrees, claiming Pakistan backed the militants. Kashmir has long been a flashpoint between India and Pakistan, and the two have already fought wars over the land. Since the attack, Indian and Pakistani soldiers have exchanged gunfire in Kashmir, and now Pakistan says it has intelligence military action by India is imminent. India's PM Narendra Modi has reportedly held a closed-door meeting with military chiefs and granted them operational freedom to decide on the mode and targets of its response to the attack. Both countries have around the same nuclear arsenal, but as yet neither side are threatening that. India has a no-use first policy, and Pakistan says it would only use them if there was a direct threat to our existence. But open conflict between the two countries now appears imminent.
So what's your take on that, Aaron?
Oh, I think they're going to go at it, because what's amazing to me is over the last 6 days, Pakistan's been attacking India along the border each and every day. They've been violating the ceasefire each and every day. And India's been greatly restrained by just delivering enough force to repel the attackers back and keep them on their side of the border. They've showed great restraint. So for them to sit there and whine and cry, "Oh, India's about to attack us," you've been attacking them every day. I mean, ever since India announced that they were going with us against China, ever since that happened, 2 days later, they started having trouble with Pakistan. And 2 days after that, both China and Turkey has been shipping missiles and munitions into that country. Now, if you don't mind, pick one, if you don't mind, Bishop.
Which one we're talking about here?
Manpower. Okay. I want everybody to see, you're talking a population of 1.4 billion, which is equal to China's, against 252 million, which is less than what we have in the United States. We have about 335 million in the United States. But we have a technological edge with our military that makes up for our loss of numbers if we was to take on Russia and China. But India has clear advantage. We're talking a 6-to-1 ratio. And usually in military terms, 4-to-1's an automatic win. We're talking 6-to-1. Okay, go ahead and go to pick 2, which is the eco might. Okay, you can clearly see the GDP for India is 3.5 trillion. Pakistan's, they're a poor country, and they're mostly a desert country. They don't even have drinking water. The water they get comes from a river that flows from India down to them. And you can clearly see one side is living great, the other side is living poor. Okay, go ahead to the eco challenges. Okay, the high debt to ratio, GDP ratio that Pakistan has, I mean, everything they got coming in is going out the door. And a lot of people know if you try to operate your home's budget that way, you're not going to get very far. And you're constantly floating on the edge of bankruptcy. Then they have a depleting foreign exchange reserves, which that keeps going down because they're spending more money than they got coming in. And then they excessively rely on foreign aid. I mean, they totally rely on U.S. aid and whatever aid they're getting from China. I mean, here recently, some of the U.S. aid we gave them, they went out and bought nuclear missiles without the warheads, because they have warheads to put on them themselves. So they're out spending on unnecessary things that they shouldn't even be focusing on. And why would you want to take on a country that has you outnumbered 6-1 in everything? Tanks, artillery, aircraft. I mean, everything across the board. And you're taking on a country that can afford to fight a war, and you can't. And then on top of that, that country cut the water off to your country. Man, you picked the wrong battle. But if you're being used as a proxy by China because India turned on China and is willing to sign a deal with us on trade, then hey, I hope China can supply you with enough to keep you in the fight, because otherwise you probably won't last 4 weeks, from what I'm seeing on paper. But that's just the way things is going right now. I mean, Pakistan's attacked India in the last 6 days 10 times across a 300-kilometer area. If you look at history, Pakistan was formed in 1947. The upper part of this land that some of these nations at the end of World War II carved up and turned into two countries, the Islamic section, which is Muslim, was given to Pakistan, or given to people, and they called it Pakistan. The rest of it was India. But that land was carved out of land that originally belonged to India. They got too big for their britches. Once they got their own country, what'd they do? They attacked India in 1947, same year that they got awarded their country. India beat the hell out of them. In 1965, they attacked India again, got their butts beat again. 1971, same thing, got their butts wore out again. And in 1999, same thing again. They got the crap beat out of them. Now, this is going to be considered the fifth Indo-Pak war that's getting ready to happen. And Pakistan has started. Pakistan has started all 5 wars and been just decimated behind it. And they're getting ready to come out for a 5th time. And like I said, China rushed a bunch of missiles to them. Turkey rushed a bunch of military hardware and stuff to them. Will it be enough? And keep in mind, India does have aircraft carrier. They might even have 2. I know for a fact they got 1 for sure. So Pakistan right now is massing tanks and heavy artillery on the border. I'm talking close to 1,000 or more. India's closed airspace and their ports to Pakistan shipping and airlines. Pakistan has closed their airspace to anything coming out of India. Pakistan's also threatening to use nukes, which you saw in the video. They said if their lives are threatened or whatever, that they'll use a nuke. So both those countries are nuclear countries. So this could get real bad. And I don't see how they could even win. I mean, massive numbers. They can't win that without using nukes.
Mhm.
But right now, those terrorists that hit that area, and even the Pakistani troops that constantly are on the border, they're trained for 3 types of attacks. And that is cross-border raids, IED bomb blasts, and live fire firefights, basically gunfights along the border. That's what they train for. That's what they do. I saw a video where they used TOW missiles, wire-guided TOW missiles, American-made, to take out these 3 buildings that were made out of rock, that were bunkers that the Indian soldiers were in on the border. It was an outpost, and man, they lit them up and blew them up. But they're starting it, and then they want to sit back and cry, oh, they're about to attack us. Really? Really? You're shooting at them every day, and you got the nerve to whine that we're about to be attacked in the next 24 to 48 hours? I mean, you got it coming, as far as I'm concerned, but I'll stop there for right now, Bishop.
You know what? I was looking at when we was talking about doing this, I went back and was looking at the history behind behind India and Pakistan, and just trying to figure out the reason why they were enemies. You know, because at first they were all one country at one point in time, and that was when they was under the British regime from was from 1858 to till they got their independence in 1947. But when the British Empire gave the Indian colonies, their independence, they split it up into two different countries. You got India and you had Pakistan. India being Hindu and Pakistan for being Muslim, which caused like 14 million people to kind of shuffle back and forth. To you had everybody that was Hindu go on one side, everybody that was Muslim go on the other side, and that's when the fighting actually started. And during those fights, they've lost well over 1 million people in those 5 wars. But then I started looking into the reason why the Brits even gave them away in the first place, even gave them their independence in the first place, and it was because of it was like a combination of like you had like a strong independent movement, you had the economic, you had the military exhaustion, going from World War II, and then you had a lot of international pressure. So it was like at that point they just gave it up. But after all of that, so let's see, so for the past 60, 70 years that they've been going back and forth, the only thing that actually stayed true during that time was their water treaty, which is the Indus water treaty. And what I did figure out was, as I was reading, was that the World Bank helped them get that treaty to ensure that both countries will be able to use the river and like use it peacefully. So this treaty was signed. And out of all, after the whole 60 years of them been going back and forth, that's the only thing that actually held true. But India, after India ended up suspending it after the attacks in Kashmir, where those 26 people were unalive. And then India blamed Pakistan within hours. But here's the thing: they accuse Pakistan, but they still haven't shown any proof that they've actually done it. But because they did this immediately after this happened, and they automatically jumped up and said that it was from Palestinian, it was from Palestine, and they were saying no, what me, we didn't do it. So it's been going back and forth, but they still didn't have clear proof as to what happened. So then India started canceling visas, they closed the borders, they pulled out of the water treaty, and surprisingly, this all happened during the same time that J.D. Vance was in India. And some people was wondering, was the timing like a coincidence, or was it used to make a bigger global statement? Which was some of the stuff that I had seen on there. But the real danger is the water. It's because now India controls the headwaters of the river, and Pakistan depends on the bigger part of it, because it's like when you're looking at the actual map, the larger parts of these rivers are on the Pakistan side, but the heads of these rivers are on the India side, where they have the dams. So they shut the dams off, dries it up. You know what I mean? Now it's not dry as of right now, you know what I mean? Because it takes a little bit of time for that to happen. But if you keep those dams shut, yeah, you're gonna lose that water pretty quick. And that's good. That's their biggest thing. So this whole thing that's going on right now, like on India's side, India is complaining because of the attack of the 26 people that were killed. Pakistan is pitching a fit because of the water. So you're gonna have over the past few days, like you said, you had China, and then you had Turkey, both of them trying to play proxy. They jumping in on this side. They sending weapons and stuff on there because they want this to happen.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Which is crazy because India was with BRICS, one of the founders of BRICS. So if you got China helping Pakistan go against India, you know, do you see where that little tension is coming in at? It's like they're trying to, I'm not saying let's just say the powers that be, you know, just based off what I'm reading here and what I'm seeing, is that's a good way to dismantle BRICS. If you got the ones that's in BRICS that's fighting each other.
Mm-hmm.
Make sense?
Yeah.
And it seemed like that's exactly the way this is going, because India was one of the big players in BRICS,
Mm-hmm.
along with China.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So now you got the little deceptive stuff going back and forth as to like this incident here, which led on to this, which is going to lead on to them actually fighting.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and we've been saying this for months now, that trade wars lead to regular war.
Mm-hmm.
China's under the gun right now, and a lot of the stuff that's being done right now is like, okay, we're going to make these deals with these other countries, and just like the mineral rights in Ukraine, U.S. just they're going to sign paperwork here to be able to get access to the mineral rights in Ukraine. Also in Congo, which China was trying to get those mineral rights in Congo.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it's a lot of strategic stuff that's going on.
Mm-hmm.
That's basically putting China in the middle and everything closing in on them. But like I said last week, if you put a cat in a corner, what do? They fight to get out. You know what I mean? So the question is how long are you going to keep pressing him until eventually they come out and do something? Because I seen a report today where China came out and said that they're going to stick to what they said. Like their resolve is holding. They're not down in for nothing. They're not about to cave. So you're going to keep putting pressure. You know what I mean? And that's what a normal, you know what I mean, if you're thinking strategically, that's what you would do. You would keep applying pressure. And if you apply enough pressure, eventually they cave in. But they're going to hold out. The reason why they're going to hold out is because they've been, you know, like now they're at a point that they can actually try to be a powerhouse in the world. But many, many, many years they were not. They were used to not having nothing. You know what I mean? So if it takes for them to have to do that, and you got the president there that's not going to go down because it shows weakness, he's going to fight to the end.
Mm-hmm.
So this is what we're looking at. You know, now you see like it's different stuff going on. Just like you said, there's something going on in Israel right now. Israel being attacked right now.
Mm-hmm.
There's stuff going on in these different places, but they're all being able to connect the dots to something else that's going on somewhere else. Like this is happening because of this. This is happening because of this, and it's all centered around those things there.
Mm-hmm.
So eventually, it's going to pop. It's going to pop somewhere. Somebody going to get it, and when they do, all hell's going to break loose. But this whole thing with with India and Pakistan, like you said, it's been going on off and on for years. They've had their own little beasts back and forth, and a lot of the stuff that they were fighting for before was more on a religious standpoint. Now you're dealing with, terrorist attacks. You're dealing with water. Pakistan has been known for harboring people from these other organizations, other terrorist organizations. They've been harboring them there.
Mm-hmm.
They harbored Bin Laden there. They've harbored, several other ones. So that's one of the things that India is saying now. It's like, okay, you've done this, and you've been harboring terrorists over there. We know you've been harboring over there for years, which kind of goes full circle as to what all's going on here. But it's going to come. There's going to be, if you think about it, that whole Middle East front there, it's like ground zero for everything. It's like everything's gonna take off in that area. I mean, it's like it has to, because there's so much stuff going on there. It has to. I mean, and I think what it is right now is like they're just playing like a little game of chicken. They're trying to see which one is going to do it first. I mean, who going to do just enough? Who going to push the other one to do something, so then that way everybody can go in and pounce on you. But I don't know, brother. I don't know. I think this is trying times, but it's also like, to me, it's like the best times, because you are seeing this stuff. This is stuff that's going to be in the history books, that you could say that, I was there when this happened. I talked about this when this happened, because we know it's going to happen. We just don't know when, but it's going to happen, and it's going to happen here real soon, So it's crazy that a lot of the stuff that we've been talking about for months and months, now we're seeing it. Like what we were talking about then is now playing out now. I know the ones who watch this show on a regular will kind of say, like, man, they did say that. They did bring this up 3, 4, 5, 6 months ago, 7 months ago. They did talk about this. And we kind of basically put the whole little plan out there. We've been gradually doing it for months now. And it's crazy. Like, this is one of them situations where you want to be wrong.
Yeah.
But based on what you're seeing, there's no way you can be. But we've been out here for what, 113? So we're gonna edge it back a little bit. I'm gonna let you give your word, and I'll give mine on the end, and then we'll close it out.
Okay. Now, keep in mind, everybody, that China said if they get into a war with the United States, they're going to shut down transportation. They're going to shut down 911 system. They're shutting down the power grid. They're shutting down our communications, which is our cell phones. And they're shutting down the water treatment plants right off the rip. So we've seen just how people panicked and emptied out the stores in Spain and things within just 2 or 3 hours. There was no bottled water left. There was foods was gone. Canned goods were gone. Take that as a hint to the wise. See what has happened in history. See what's going on now. Realize that we're living in perilous times, and bad things can happen to good people. Get your disaster kit together. Have one in your house. Even if you would never have to use it, just to have it there will build a certain level of confidence. Learn how to use the tools that are inside of it, so you're not reading an owner's manual when an emergency occurs and you have to use it. Pick up some first aid skills. Get extra flashlights, extra batteries. Have some 1s, 5s, and 10s at your house, so if you have to go to the store, you can buy goods, because the credit cards and checks aren't going to move. And unless you want to pay $100 for a case of bottled water, if you got exact change, you're in there. So see the handwriting on the wall. The biggest thing that can happen to us is our power grid gets shut down and it's wide open for attack. Somebody is going to get around to hitting us at our Achilles heel. So get your stuff together so that when everything goes down, you and your family have circled the wagons and you're going to make it through this situation. When this is over with and it becomes a part of history, you'll be one of those wearing the t-shirt that said, I survived 2025 or the tragedies or whatever that occurred. You'll be able to proudly say that you led people, you led your family to make it through a bad situation. And I'll stop there.
See, you got a message on here that said, thank you for the kit.
Oh, I'm gonna have to give her a call and talk to her a little bit about it. Just make sure she understands how to use everything.
Well, we appreciate everybody for coming out like always. Like, follow, share, subscribe. Share the video so that way it'll reach out as many people as possible. Hit that like button. That like button is what sends us out on the right algorithm so that more people will be able to see these videos. That's actually worth more than you actually paying for this show. Hit that like button, and also to share. Also, those of you that's not on the Dominant Effect group on Facebook, go on and check it out. Just look up the Dominant Effect group. Also on the website, you got the little QR code up on the top there. If you scan that QR code, it'll take you directly to the Dominant Effect website. They got a store on there. A lot of every video that we do is on there. There's a lot of other stuff that's on there too. Go on and check it out. We also have a couple of we got a couple sponsors that just signed on. We got Beard Club, and we also have Gentleman's Republic, which is they make like hair products, stuff like that. We're working on getting everything made up for that, so we can post out that information. Also, the QR codes that you can go on and check out some of that stuff. They got a lot of good stuff on there, especially you guys with the beards that are always asking about the stuff I use and all that. That's what I use. But we'll have a lot of that stuff on there as well. Other than that, peace, much love to everyone. Think about what it was that we've been talking about tonight. Think about what happened in Europe and realize that this stuff here can happen here.
Mm-hmm.
And as quick as 5 seconds, like it happened there, it can sure enough happen here. So be prepared, be ready, pay attention, and we'll see y'all next week.